Hey guys, it's Omer from MMOs.com. I'm doing another quick weekly news recap of all major MMO news and announcements for the week ending November 16th, 2015. This is episode number 17 of the recap, and hopefully we won't have as much reverb/echo this time, as I hung a bunch of stuff on my PC to absorb the sound, so hopefully it should be a bit better. Anyway, the first bit of news comes from Tree of Savior this week, and it's the upcoming Ragnarok Online inspired MMORPG. The game is still in closed beta, but IMC Games, the Korean developer, released a cool new trailer which you're seeing right now at G-Star 2015, which shows off some of the high-level mobs and zones. The trailer also shows off some upcoming new classes such as the Shinobi and Musketeer, as well as some unconfirmed classes like the Fencer, Dragoon, and Warlock. Also, in related Korean Tree of Savior news, the game is set to begin its open beta testing in South Korea in December, which bodes well for the North American release as well, because I expect the Western release to follow shortly afterwards. But unfortunately, that is yet to be confirmed. I mean, the Korean closed beta ran for like about a year, so it took a long time to go from closed beta to open beta, whereas the American, rather Western release for the game has been in closed beta for a much shorter period of time, but I do expect the open beta to begin, hopefully, pretty soon. Next up, Elite Lord of Lions, better known as Eloa, is launching into open beta tomorrow on November 17th. As with any open beta, there will not be any more wipes going forward, and players can prepare for the open beta by downloading the newest game client right away. The launch of Eloa into open beta puts a nail in the coffin of the entire In-Spirit Online saga, as In-Spirit Online isn't even available anymore, so I think that game is shut down for good. It's pretty surprising to see even a game like In-Spirit Online even exist in the first place. It was just a knockoff, it was a rip-off private server, and now the official server kind of came in here and shut them down, so if you want to play Eloa, it is launching tomorrow on the 17th. And it's actually not a bad game if you don't mind some of the instance gameplay. And moving right along, Hi-Res Studios unveils its Founders Packs for their new upcoming shooter, Paladins, Champions of the Realm, in anticipation for the first round of beta testing, which is set to begin tomorrow on November 17th. Compared to other Founders Packs, these actually seem somewhat reasonably priced, with the smallest one available for $19.99, which gives players immediate access to the beta, as well as an exclusive mount and a 15-card chest. And regardless of the Founders Packs, Paladins actually seems like a pretty unique game. It's an FPS with some CCG elements, and that's collectible card game elements with deck building. Players will draw different cards from their deck each round, which will ensure each match actually feels different. It's a unique idea, and I'm actually kind of excited to try it out. And as you guys probably know, I'm not a big fan of Founders Packs in general, so I will not be buying the Founders Pack, and instead I'll be hoping to get beta access through the email raffle that you can sign up for on their official website. Next up, yet another new game launching soon. This time around, we get to look at Cosmic League, which launches in North America on December 10th. And based on the game's visuals, it should be clear to some of you that Cosmic League is actually a sequel to Cosmic Break from Cyberstep Games. Cosmic League pits players against each other in 10 versus 10 matches, with both up-close melee weapons and long-range rifles. Actually sounds and looks a lot like the original Cosmic Break game, but I would guess with improvements. I do believe the game has been around for some time in Japan and other regions in the world, but it is launching in North America on December 10th for good. And if you did like Cosmic Break, there's no reason not to give Cosmic League a try. Moving right along, we have an expansion for Perfect World International called Warfront, which actually launched this week. Warfront introduces cross-server battles as well as new solo dungeons. The expansion largely focused on enhancing PvP content though. Introduces Battle for Treasure Island, which is a 60 versus 60 battle for power and resources. And as with any major update, there are also tons of smaller changes as well. Perfect World is actually one of the older free-to-play RPGs in the West. It launched back in 2008 and is still going fairly strong. Arc Game / Perfect World Entertainment has had some ups and downs in the free-to-play space, but their original game, Perfect World, is still doing alright, and still gets updated regularly, as we're seeing right now with the Warfront update. And despite what people may say, I do think the character creator in Perfect World is still a little bit more flexible than the one in Black Desert. Next up, the game with the most confusing name in the world, Piercing Blow, launches on Steam. And I say the most confusing name in the world because the game's name keeps changing. It launched on Steam as Piercing Blow, but it's also known as Project Blackout, and even Point Blank. Why on earth does this game have 3 names is beyond me. The game also boasts on Steam that it has over 100 million registered users in over 70 countries, which I'm going to go and have to call BS on because those numbers are astronomical. Only a handful of games have achieved over 100 million registered users, and I'm pretty sure Piercing Blow ain't one of them. But bashing aside, the game is available on Steam now, so if you want to check it out, do so. But keep in mind, it has received review scores of mostly negative. I did do a first look video for this game as well. It's not that great. And there are definitely better options out there, but hey, if you want to try a random free-to-play shooter, Point Blank is now on Steam. Up next, some unfortunate news from NeoWiz Games regarding their upcoming fantasy MMORPG, Bless. The news is that NeoWiz has delayed the launch of Bless indefinitely to spend more time on improving the game. Apparently, the dev team highlighted 9 areas of gameplay that needed significant improvement, including UI, combat, and character customization. So I guess they need to fix everything. Bless has been one of those games that's been on the horizon for quite a while now. The game has never actually been announced for Western release, so the delay isn't that big of a deal. But I do suspect if the game ever gets around to launching in Korea, it'll make its way to the West eventually. I do want to emphasize though that even though the game is being delayed indefinitely, NeoWiz still plans on developing and eventually releasing the game. There's just no time schedule yet, thus indefinitely. Next up, yet another major update for Skyforge launched this week called Journey of the Divine. I say yet another major update because My.com has been on the ball with releasing regularly scheduled updates for their game since open beta began for Skyforge back in July. I mean, since open beta actually began, they've already launched so many updates for the game. The Journey of the Divine update, though, adds new enemies to the game called avatars of the invading alien gods, which players must defeat in groups of 10 in intense and unique battles. Also included in the update are new divine specializations, new Pantheon academies, and more. You can see the full patch notes on the game's official website. Skyforge is actually a really interesting game if you don't mind it largely instance gameplay. So if you don't mind instance gameplay, give Skyforge a try. Up next, Steel Ocean launched on Steam this week. It launched on November 12th actually, so I do need to do a first look video for the game. If you haven't heard of Steel Ocean, the game's name sort of gives away what kind of game it is. It's a naval combat game set during World War II. The game features up to 16 versus 16 gameplay and looks a lot like Navy Field 2 as well as World of Warships. It's actually worth mentioning too that Steel Ocean is published by Changyu, a pretty huge Chinese game developer on par with Perfect World, but it's a name that most people aren't familiar with because Changyu pretty much gave up on Western games up until now. They've long since abandoned their main game, Dragon Oath, which is still available but hasn't received an update in years, so it looks like Changyu is getting back into Western game publishing / developing. But we'll see how Steel Ocean does. Also, I'm not sure what to make of the video in the background. It says gameplay real scene in the bottom left, but is this actual gameplay? It looks kind of like cinematic almost, but yeah, apparently it's gameplay real scene. So something also got lost in translation. It should just say like actual gameplay instead of gameplay real scene. But visually the game definitely looks pretty good. Up next, more news from G-Star 2015. Nexon's mobile dinosaur survival MMO Durango will be released in English. Durango isn't a game I've heard of until now, but apparently it's getting an English release, so boom baby. The same team at Nexon that developed Mabinogi Heroes, which is called Vindictus in the West, called What Studios, will be working on the game. It's supposed to be a dino survival MMO where players need to chop down trees, set up camp, and team up with others to survive, a la Rust, Ark Survival Evolved, and all the other Western survival games we've already played. It's very clear that Nexon is trying to capitalize on the success of Ark Survival Evolved with Durango. The big thing here though is that Durango will be mobile, and it'll be one of the first fully fledged survival games on mobile, so I'm curious to see how well it'll actually do. Next up, MechWarrior Online is finally coming to Steam on December 11th. MechWarrior Online first launched back in 2013 and has been available on its own website since release, but it should reach a much broader audience with the Steam launch on December 11th. The game has been pretty niche since its first launch, but I do suspect the player base should get a small bump from Steam when it actually does launch. Until it does launch though, Piranha Games, the company developing it, has been working on a major rebalance for the game, which should hopefully be fully completed before the Steam launch. As a big fan of Steam, I do want to see eventually every single game just being available on Steam. I don't like using multiple launchers. I mean, Area Ignite has their own launcher, OG Plan has their own. A lot of these games, especially the smaller games, are on their own platforms, which just seems a bit silly. I mean, I'd love to see everything on Steam one day, but maybe I can ramble about that later. Anyway guys, that's it for major MMO news and announcements of the week ending November 16th, 2015. I'll see you guys all tomorrow for the podcast. Later guys.